Sheila and Sin were at the beginning of the slam in the 80s, 1980s. The women dominated. I mean, you had Sheila and Sin, Lisa Boscani, Patricia Smith. The women ruled, you know. The still do, yes. And this celebration of the collection going to the Newberry, what's also going to happen is that we're going to have a lot of the voices from the very beginning, including the Chicago Poetry Ensemble, which you'll really get a taste of what it was like performance is what made slam so strong and go across. It wasn't competition. A lot of, especially in America, everybody thinks they can read a 3-minute poem and be a fucking star just because they read 3 minutes on a fucking stage because they get 10s. I got 10s. That wasn't what it was about. It was the daringness that we did. We just went against all the established poetry rules, and it just wild stuff. For instance, and Rob, who's from the Poetry Ensemble, is here tonight. But Rob at one time, you remember this, Rob? We did an act about war. It was when what's his name came out with that book about Nam that everybody read. I forget what it is because I forget things. But so we had Rob as a plant at the bar, and he's been performing at the Green Mill for weeks and weeks. The bartender couldn't even recognize him. He was so well disguised. And so we start the show about the Nam, war and the Nam. He's at the bar. What the fuck did they know about it? They weren't fucking there. And the bartender, hey, shh, don't tell me to shut. And it's the audience like, oh, the fuck, what's going to go on, But it was a way of breaking the conventions of poetry where, I'm going to read my next poem. Oh, thank you. So, very daring. So they're gonna have a big chunk of that night, but it's going to be several of the people from the early years, and Sin and which you won't see tonight because Sin's not here. They're going to do their ensemble work of Betty's Mouth that they do it, and that's worth seeing because that's also a technique that was never around before the slam started. But tonight, Sheila, you gotta fill the fucking 10 minutes yourself. So, welcome up Sheila Donohue, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. How y'all doing tonight? All right. I've owned the stage for many years. Love this place. All right, I'm going to start with a love poem because everyone always says I don't write love poems. With you, I pinned my hair up just to have you take it down. With you, I closed my body before bed so you would slowly, sleeve by lace, removing my very American jeans. I lit hundreds of candles as a purposeful fire hazard and purposefully left my maps at home just to see your shadow-lit seriousness in the dresser mirror when the last blown candle rushed antiquity, hushing it around the room. And the last thing I recall, I was stepping off a Vegas stage into 20,000 leagues of tinsel, crowds cheering. The last thing I recall, I was stepping off a St. Louis stagecoach, the horseman's hand extended, and as my lace glove slipped off into his hand, I was trading spices and indigo, making the very first denim. I was throwing tea into the Boston Harbor. I was stepping off the Santa Maria. And as I handed over the last pink moon, as you gave me the last midnight beads, we were stepping off a ledge at Red Rocks, moments from the lean-to you built to protect us from the sun. We gazed over God's ravine, You rubbed mint leaves into the curves of my back, and with each step backward, we talked to strange species. High-flying hawks conversed with the wind. That Sin's not up here with me to do Betty's mouth, but I'm going to bring her into the room. All right, so this has never been performed on stage. I wrote this for her. It's a little tribute to her. Anyone, if you ever don't know, but Sin will write you a poem. She gets paid to write commissioned poetry, and I thought it was high time someone wrote one for her. All right, here we go. It was a good intro you gave me because this starts in 1987. This poem is called Sin. It was 1987. The Green Mill was so packed that night that Mark Smith was seating groups of 2 and 3 at booths with other groups of 2 and 3. Here, he said, why don't you sit with these nice people? I was on a date with a guy who would have rather been watching baseball on TV. You were with someone who was at least interested. I can remember catching your dropping jaw and your eager eyes. I couldn't have agreed more. We were watching performance poetry for the first time together at the same table. Strangers, but instant comrades, young urban trying to be half professionals, urban craving, young seeking, this feeling, this feeling of letting it out. And not just letting it out, but getting on a stage in front of a bar full of people who would crucify you in a second for bullshitting them. The only poems that survived that stage came from the core, the pure core, the rotten core, the burning wisdom, the stupidly vulnerable, the wildly passionate, the utterly ridiculous. But if you were showing the underbelly, you stayed for at least another 30 seconds. That audience would have the power to force the hand of girls who knew better than to show that kind of stuff on the outside, let alone on stage. And that's why we couldn't stop listening. I don't think you got up to pee all night. We sat across from each other in the corner booth under the Venus de Milo, straining our necks from looking over the shoulders around the grand piano. You would embrace that neck pain for the whole work week, straining your necks and hungry for the next Sunday when you could do it again. And the doors just kept opening for you, the doorways leading you through mazes of discovery, the words following you around on every napkin, the words building new forms and new voices. You were Wicker Park prior to the neighborhood-wide gut rehab. You were the art that made the real estate moguls want in. The cigarettes and the styrofoam cups twisting under the L tracks like angels inspired you to breathe life into the city and write the words that would soar into the atmosphere and land in our town as art. Art and coffee is where I came to know you. Rehearsing hours and hours together with Mark Smith, saying 2 words 10 ways, drinking pots and cups and leaving coffee rings on every laser-printed poem. In those moments, we talked for centuries. I watched you discovering the meaning of words you had written. And once that lifeline of words was between us, there was nothing we couldn't say to each other. And it's the same now. 150 years after onion fields have vanished from our land, your skin peels back one thin membrane at a time, revealing lovers and bands and musicians and poets and filmmakers and a child, an amazing child who found you even when you gave up looking. You're the same Sin to me, living the life of the seeker, brave enough to act on what you find, finding life and love and words in every corner. Okay, so now here's one from 1987. It's called Green Sandals. Betty threw up on the shoes of a woman working in a drugstore. Betty threw up everything that ever came into her. Every fucking thing that ever came into her. People in the drugstore silently getting sick. Not really sick, of their own, on their own. Just embarrassed. The anonymous, enormous anemone people, the anonymous various marine people that attach themselves to rocks, suggesting colors by their coloring and outspread tentacles. People embarrassed, but watching, waiting for Betty to crawl out, head down, anonymous like their anemone selves. People staring. She was through getting sick on the shoes of the drugstore woman, and Betty just wanted to browse around the drugstore, maybe buy some nice green sandals. All right. So now I'm gonna do 4 things that are not a haiku. They're not a haiku. I've written a series of things that are they're not haikus. Anyway, anyone who wants to know what a haiku is, it's a Japanese form of poetry, typically about the seasons, and the syllables are always 5, 7, 5. All right, so this one is 5, 4, 7. Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. This one is 673. Again, not a haiku. For all you people at the University of Chicago. All right. I'd be there by now, but I saw something shiny in the road. That might actually be the title of my next book. Okay. Let's see. This one is 474. Unfuck yourself. I am not wired to win. I don't got this. And this one is 665. It's the very first not a haiku that I ever wrote. Each individual has their own unique way of annoying me. Okay, and so Sin and I always do some E.E. Cummings, so I'm going to do one E.E. Cummings for you. It's a short one, and I really love listening to Mark earlier do that. I'm a big fan of E.E. Cummings. Exit a kind of unkindness exit. Little Mr. Big, busy nest not man. Ye galleon wilts, bending be ending. Like bad, like candy. And you are dead, you captain. Memo 1, wife in incredibly hell. Memo 1, son in imperably Yale. That's E. Cummings. That's E. Cummings. All right, let's see here. All right, so this one is called The Rat Condo. Any of you city dwellers? I don't see squirrels. I have rats. The rats have chased the squirrels away. I wasn't raised with rats. I only read about the bubonic plague. I only read about the infestations at Fulton Street Market at the turn of the last century. It's not 911 you call, it's 311. The Rat Patrol. They're faster than the cops. Picture a husky, manly city worker girl in a clean pressed white denim uniform driving up in a sparkly white van. I told her I would come home late from poetry readings and catch their little rope tails and their beady eyes and the headlights scampering in all 50 rat directions, and then I would flash the high beams and chase them down the alley. Get along, little doggies! I realized later they were running into my garage. Their destination was the rat condo my neighbor helped me construct. He recommended that I attach exposed plywood to the inside walls of the garage. Then we'll stuff it with insulation. In winter, your car will start with the first turn of the key. He built me this rat nest. He worked real hard on it. The neighbors are church people. They fix the problems they create. He said, say the word and I'll be over with a shotgun to take care of that rat problem. Yesterday I saw a rat frolicking with a robin in the grassy green, an all-out rat-robin leapfrog, catch me if you can. I never saw a squirrel be that friendly with a bird. Yet the rat's bad PR rings in my head. If you don't let me brush that hair, it'll turn into a rat's nest. That's because he's a rat fink. I've only been sued once in my life. The lawyer said, tell the bastard to go pound sand down a rat hole. It was my first commercial landlord experience. I paid his rent on time for 7 years, but he was a rat who wanted landlord babies every 3 months, dozen at a time. The 311 girl didn't take to my story. She didn't think stories would get rid of rats. She wouldn't believe me when I told her I watched a rat carry an entire McDonald's cheeseburger wrapped into the Y of a tree branch. She said, that was a squirrel. I said, no, they're not meat eaters. She said, he was keeping it from the rats. She just laid down poison, poked the ground with a stick, and told me to call again if I need help. 311, they're just like banks. You show them what you've got, you tell them your little story, but they just hand back your little financial statement and sell you some more insurance. Is this all you've got? That's what the rat said to me. The poison was in these little packets, placed down in the hole, manufactured to be appetizing, like a low interest rate you'll never get because you don't qualify. Next day, the packets were chucked out of the hole in their entirety, not a bite. Is this all you've got, Indiana girl? This one home, and then I'm going to end with a little story about my dad for Father's Day. All right, this one is called Fast Walking Man. Our garage is a viewfinder, an open rectangle, a large brownie camera, the best place to sit in the rain. I hold our garage up to the sky and then down to the alley, and into view walks the fast walking man. In from the right, out to the left. He walks into the frame every day, the same time every day. Fast walking man is swinging and leaning forward into his fast walking job, swinging his arms and angling his body as if to counteract a ferocious gust of wind that never comes. He crosses into the frame every day at 7:10 a.m. and out of the frame before the moment can change. He does not like change. It is the rhythm of his every that winds his clock of freedom. Every, he says to his feet. Every, he talks to his head. Every day I walk this way, this alley, this same plaid shirt, and I am free when I walk fast. He carries a green thermos in his left hand. It's always on his left. And I think it's some warm soup that he always has for lunch. but the kids say for sure it is Gatorade. And they asked me, is he really smart that he can hit the mark like a clock like that every? Or is his every a crazy every? Something tells them without any history in their bones that he's moving outside the frame. The rest of us move in. All right, so yeah, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. My father passed away in 1991, but he used to sit in the late 80s back in the back row there, and he loved coming here and listening to poetry. So anyway, this is called The Boatmaker's Tale. We got this canoe when I was 11 to explore the river where LaSalle had discovered South Bend, Indiana. The bicentennial was coming in 2 years, and we were often taken to historical reenactments that involved explorers like LaSalle, Ponce de Leon, Magellan. They all had canoes. I was like them, these early pilots of the Midwest. We had just moved from a New Jersey suburb of New York City. We were a little different. I was about to enter middle school in a town where I knew no one. I had braces, no breasts to speak of, and a funny accent. I said orange juice, coffee. I didn't know what to do at 4-H. My father had always wanted a boat. He wanted a boat so badly that he was constantly taking us to boat trade shows, bringing my mother and us kids through elaborate displays of large cabin, ocean-faring sailboats in some Elkhart, home of the recreational vehicle, Indiana warehouse. Boats with the kitchen and the bunk and the wet bar and the ship's wheel. We loved every one we trekked through. Every boat we said, let's get this one. So we were extremely relieved when the canoe arrived. We were living on Potawatomi territory, where the river took a bend to the south. Now water was no boundary for our family. Our river was the only river in the world, other than the Nile, that flowed north. This was part of the pitch our parents used to sell us on this town. There was no salt in Lake Michigan, and just as much beach as the Jersey Shore. It would be easy and great. It was all about boats and water and exploring new lands. Our canoe became our bicycle. Our lagoon, fed by the river, became our path. My 9-year-old brother and I could launch the boat by ourselves. We had purpose to explore our quest in the Midwest. We did this every day after school, together for the first years in Indiana, free from the threat of kids that didn't like us, free from the aching of missing the places we knew. It was all about the sound of the water swishing over the wooden paddle and the aluminum canoe. It was cutting through green scum and lily pads and chasing bluegills with Wonder Bread as bait. Dad always wanted to improve the canoe. He said a boat was something you work on, constantly changing, the type of thing you want to be working on all the time. So when he offered to saw the back of the canoe off and attach a motor, we were highly skeptical. He said he had the machinery at work to saw through the metal. It would be easy and great. With a motor, he said, we could go against the river current. My brother and I raising our blonde eyebrows. How much more upstream were we expected to go? No thanks, Dad. We've had plenty, was our motto. The motor showed up in our garage one spring, ready to be mounted. No, don't saw the back of the canoe off, Dad. It'll never work right again. We knew from experience that his improvements took a lot out of us. When testing went into effect in the garage, it just got worse. My father hauled a 55-gallon industrial steel drum from work, filled it with water, sawed off a wooden mount, and fastened it to the rim of the drum and attached the motor. One pull start and the test was a success. his two red-haired, wide-eyed kids staring at an outboard motor running in a drum in the garage, kicking out blue smoke, splashing dots of water onto the floor of the garage. What's that the Donahue's got in their garage? It's just this thing our dad is doing for his work. It's nothing to do with us. We'll just leave it set up like this so we can keep it running smooth before we put it on the canoe, he'd say. You don't want to leave a two-cycle engine idle for too long. It doesn't belong on the canoe, honey, you can hear my mother screaming from the kitchen window. The motor stayed in the garage for many years, in the original drum-filled water, which became sludgy and disgusting over time, like we were storing some kind of hazardous waste. The motor never went on the boat. I don't know why. I don't know why the projects never got finished. I'm having trouble finishing the story. I'm his daughter.
Sheila Donohue, everybody!